Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Homestand Show. It's Albert Vartanian with my co-host, James Sharman. We got a new set.
Smells like that new set smell.
You got
I love
those
it.
fumes? Yeah. So
it's great.
If you see us pass out halfway through the show, you know why. This is brand new set, new fumes. Looks cool, though. I feel good. I kind of feel like a judge a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. We need a gavel. It's a gavel, right?
Gavel.
Okay.
I think gavel is something else, but a gavel,
What's
yes.
a gavel?
I don't know. It just sounds like it's
Hey,
something
Sean,
else.
find out what a gavel is before the show ends.
Producer
today,
Sean,
okay?
find out what a gavel is by the end of the show. On the show today, we're going to be talking about the Players' Championship. It's coming up on Thursday at TPC Sawgrass. We're going to have Pat Mayo of the Mayo Media Network coming in to chat with me about everything you need to know in the Players' Championship, betting strategies, find a way for me and Sharman to make some money, finally. Justin Pooni will also stop by. We're going to preview the Raptors and the Clippers tonight in a big game for the Toronto Raptors taking on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Will also break down what happened last night between the Leafs and the Devils. Big win by the Leafs. Finally, James Sharman, Auston Matthews on the board.
Yeah, and a really enjoyable game, wasn't it? I really enjoyed that one. It was back and forth. You know, there was great goaltending, some nice goals. Marner's shorthanded was beautiful, of course. And and Auston Matthews back on the score sheet. It's been a little while, hasn't it?
And you called it. You said Leafs were going to win. I thought the other way. The Devils are going to smash these guys.
Just simply because they don't put back-to-back bad games together.
This is true.
This season, right? And often they'll play up to their opponents and play down to their opponents. And with injuries, often they will respond as well so far. And that's what they did last night.
I just thought no Ryan O'Reilly, no John Tavares, Sam Lafferty on the second line. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. But he was great. Helped set up a goal. Matthews was great. Bunting scored.
But the funny thing is about, no O'Reilly and no JT. Well, really, it's just no JT in that. For most of the season, there was no O'Reilly anyway.
True.
Right? So it wasn't that much of a difference, really. But I thought Lafferty played really well in that second line.
Samsonov was great, too. And we'll get into that later on in the show. We got to get to some news, though. So much happening in the National Football League. And let's start with Lamar Jackson, which you probably already know. The Baltimore Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on the quarterback, preventing him from becoming an unrestricted free agent this month by allowing him to negotiate with other teams. So he's going to get paid some way, somehow. But it might not be with the Ravens.
Yeah, March 13th is when the negotiations can start. I love the way sports just overcomplicate everything, and you have non-exclusive tags and exclusive tags.
I had to read about it like 10 times just to digest
me too.
it.
It's a little bit like, RFAs in hockey and qualifying offers, a little bit. But what I'd like about it is how the Ravens are saying to him, listen, go right ahead. If you think you can get a better deal, then we can offer you. You go right ahead. You bring it to us, and we'll see. So we're going to find out if the other team does give him what he wants.
Yeah, so the non-exclusive tag means Jackson can now engage in contract talks with other teams. If he signs an offer sheet with another team, Baltimore has the right to match the offer to keep him or take 2 first-round picks as compensation. He'll make $32 million this season. Sean?
Yeah, so, I mean, Lamar Jackson, this whole thing, I think I tweeted yesterday, is like, in a day and age where teams give too much power to the players, I feel, rest days and, I want out and I want traded and I want this. Like, the Ravens are doing the exact opposite. They're saying, hey, like, we want to keep you as a quarterback, but if you think you can go out there and make some money, and we're not willing to break the bank for you, but we don't want to give you away for nothing either. So I think it's a power move by the Ravens, and I think more teams should do things like this and not just give the power to the players and give in to all the things that they want.
The Ravens have always had this stance that no player is bigger than the team, and I think that's what they're trying to do here. But you're doing it with a former MVP.
But what he's asking for, I mean, it's not Russell Wilson money, right? It's not even close to that, for example. I know Wilson's much older, but what is the issue with what he's asking for?
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, it's big money. It's transformative money for him and his family. I understand that, but from the parlance of football, other guys get more deals, bigger deals than him.
How do you feel about his mom being his agent and not having an actual agent? Players tend to go that way.
It's dangerous, right? I guess you can trust them 100%. You'd think, although there's been horrible stories. I think Jack Johnson in the NHL,
right? Yeah,
his parents basically went bankrupt because of them. It's dangerous. I mean, is she qualified? Maybe she is. Is she a lawyer? Is she an accountant? I don't know.
I probably should
she
look
loves
into
him,
that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's the most
I
important.
love my boy. I want him to get paid. Who doesn't want their boy to get paid? Hopefully he does get paid. He's a fantastic quarterback. Very strange, though. At least 3 teams immediately came out and said that they're not in on Lamar Jackson, which you don't really hear. Like, immediately, you saw some tweets come around. Some were reports. Some were actually retweeted by the teams. The Atlanta Falcons retweeted something to say that, no, we're not in on.
Which is odd. I mean, he's good, right? He's good.
Oh, yeah.
He's not. Where would he stand, do you think, in the grand scheme of things in the NHL top 10,
Yeah,
top
Sean's
5?
saying top. Yeah, he can crack into the top 5. Why not? He hasn't really done it in the playoffs, right? And he's got some injury issues. I think that's what's been holding him back. Regardless, he's going to get paid. Probably end up with the Ravens. Someone else who got paid, Daniel Jones, a very surprising one. He and the Giants agreed to a 4-year deal worth $160 million. Here are some of the details according to Ian Rappaport. $35 million more in incentives, $82 million over the first 2 years, Sharms. $94 million virtually guaranteed at signing. Not quite your contract, but close.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's
But
not bad.
but it's all about tagging Saquon Barkley, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
They
why they signed
franchise
him.
tagged Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
The Giants. I mean, that's a big price to pay for what, a top 20, top 15 quarterback.
Again, yeah, we saw that yesterday with the signing as well.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I mean, like I said before about the overcomplication of leagues. Every league does it from Major League Soccer to the National Hockey League to MLB to NFL. They find ways. I think it's just to keep lawyers and accountants employed, quite frankly,
Yeah,
because all these rules and stipulations. Do we
too
need them?
much.
Really?
No.
I mean, the NFL is a crazy offseason. Maybe the craziest of the off-seasons is NFL. There's so much player movement, more than the NBA, I think, as well.
I would like to get a business analyst on here, but to explain it like in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what this means.
Need a longer show, I think,
Yes,
though, than 1
very
hour.
much longer show.
Yeah.
Quickly before the next block, Tom Brady, he weighed in on if he's going to be unretiring. He sent out a tweet saying, anyone who thinks I have time to come back to the NFL has never adopted a 2-month-old kitten for their daughter, Sharms.
How much time do you think Tom really spends, taking care of that kitten?
0.
0, right?
Zero.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now. What's he doing?
Well, he's being a dad,
Yeah,
apparently.
he'll probably unretire. We'll
It's not
see what
big
happens
husbands.
with Tom Brady. Coming up, me and Sharms, we're going to break down the Leafs and Devils from last night. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. James Sharman, Albert Vartanian with you. Time to talk some Leafs. They beat the Devils last night 4-3, and getting on the score sheet, Auston Matthews, his 6th-game winner of the season. Michael Bunting, we'll talk about him as well, also on the score sheet. Talk about two guys who really needed to find the back of the net. Auston Matthews, I mean, he's been good. Not great, but he's been good. 29 goals this season, 62 points, but just 4 goals in his last 10. But when they needed their star to step up, in a tough game, missing some key players, Auston Matthews did.
He did, yeah, but there's still something off there, isn't there? He still wasn't his usual self, so to speak.
Doesn't have the same speed,
No.
I feel.
And I know Chris Johnston spoke about his 200-foot game and how he is a more complete player, and that's more fitting for the playoffs. But, yeah, is it speed? Is it the ability to get that shot off like last year? I don't know. There's something not quite right there. He also has no puck luck. I watched the game last night, and it's kind of synonymous of the season so far. Puck skipping over his stick,
Right.
just missing out, Last year, everything even close to him went in the net, it seemed, right? It's not happening this year. And, I mean, I can't believe here I am talking about XG. This is the furthest from my wheelhouse
Sharman.
you could possibly imagine, right? But last year, 41.9 was his XG. It's 28 this year, all right? That's a big drop-off.
Right.
His shooting percentage we discussed last week is way down this year as well. So he's not quite the same player, but maybe it's more fitting for the playoffs. We're going to find
Did
out,
we just chalk that up to him changing his game a little bit?
Maybe. I mean,
Right.
fewer shots, right? He's spending too much time in the defensive zone, maybe.
Yeah, he's burning a lot more energy doing that, right? I mean,
Perhaps.
it's so strange what we're talking about. We're talking one of the best players in the world, and he's now become a complete player. And it's almost like we're criticizing him.
Yeah, but this happens, right? When you score 60-odd goals in
Right.
a season, which doesn't happen very often, at the same time, we're seeing Connor McDavid maybe hitting 70 this year.
Well, that's his comparable.
And
I
it
think that's what makes
was this
difficult.
time last year, right?
Right.
Who's better? Is it McDavid at 1? Is it Matthews at 1A?
It's not even close.
And now it's not even close. You got McDavid just
yeah.
better than maybe anyone that's ever played the game. And maybe
w-
that conversation comes out at some point.
And we saw them go face to face the other night in Edmonton, and McDavid came out on
And
top.
we'll see it on Saturday as well.
Yeah, which is going to be a great game. But yeah, good time for Matthews to find his scoring touch. Michael Bunting this season, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points, scored a goal, was demoted to the 4th line. Keefe just kind of wanted him to find his game, and he found it with a goal, and he was also there for Matthews as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he played well. Great goal, by the way. That passing played
beauty.
hole through the
Yeah.
middle, and then Kampf, who's not known for his assists. Great across the box there, the crease.
Yeah.
I'm so
soccer.
stuck in my
Well, I love it,
parlance
though.
here, but yeah, it was a great goal. And good to see him. Often players get demoted, and you can do one or two things. You can sulk and whine and complain, or you can just step up and prove to your coach, I think maybe you made the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
And he scores a goal, an important goal as well, in what was a really, really entertaining game.
Yeah, this Leaf
So,
team
good
has
for him. I'm
they
really
have
happy
some
for him.
fight in them. I'm starting to notice with this Toronto Maple Leaf team, including Michael Bunting. Actually, Sheldon Keefe had this to say about Bunting's performance last night.
I mean, you hope he feels good with it, of course, and it can help. And take some of the pressure off, just help him relax. But he has the ability to finish plays like that for sure, and did a great job putting himself in a good spot. I mean, just unbelievable plays by Hall and Camp to get it there, and loved the finish there. I had a sense, or not a sense, but a feel at least that we needed a goal, and that's why I changed the line and put him there. I was going to go with just 3 lines, kind of the rest of the way, and wanted Bunts to be involved in that.
Remember, though, in the playoffs last year, he wasn't great. He was injured in those playoffs. It wasn't a factor. It was really good throughout the season. So he's a really important player for this team, and I think Keefe's dealing with him pretty well right now. He won't be in the 4th line for long. He'll be back up beside Matthews in no time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Kerfoot is a placeholder. I mean, he hasn't scored. I'm scrolling through this here. January 17th was Kerfoot's last goal against Florida. I mean, we saw him last night on that first line. He does all the hard stuff. He works pretty hard. But in terms of his playmaking and finishing, he doesn't have that patience. He doesn't have that knack for goal that Bunting has. I mean, when you're playing with an Auston Matthews, if you're able to find the back of the net, you're going to score a lot of goals.
Plus the edginess, right? I mean, Kerfoot, for all his strengths, has no edginess, right? He's one of the nicest guys on the ice, it seems, all the time.
Bunting has that, though.
He
right?
has that,
Sometimes
yeah,
too much. What do you think about that? That's been talked about a lot, Bunting versus the referees.
Yeah, well, he's always talking,
how
right?
he's potentially dragging in other players like Matthews and Marner into that.
And his embellishments as well. You know, referees, you get a reputation, right? And when you're playing beside 2 young guys in Matthews and Marner, who, despite being superstars, are still in many ways learning their trade, right? And when you are beside a guy that's always on at the referees, and maybe they get inspired by that themselves, you want to stay on the referee's side. You know, it drives me crazy any sport when you see certain players in the referees' faces. You know, it's a tough job being a referee. There's bad ones out there. We saw that in the NBA in the Raptors game, of course.
Yes,
a couple of nights ago now. But you have to be smart about it, right? Pick your spot. So if you're always in their ear, you're going to get that reputation.
Especially if you're not an established star.
Yeah, and that first line needs space out there, needs to get the calls, right? A lot of first lines do get the calls in the NHL.
Yeah.
More so perhaps in the NBA, the stars. But when you have one, a rat, so to speak, and I say that with the best way possible, right?
Yeah, in hockey terms.
In hockey terms, you got to know what side of the edge to be on.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it, honestly. If it makes sense, I'm fine with it. I think Bunting will definitely be back on the first line. I could see him there, honestly, against Edmonton on Saturday. Big game, right? They have a bunch of days off. But he needs to find a scoring touch. 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 10 games. Not great. I want to talk about Ilya Samsonov. He probably hasn't stolen a game since being in the blue and white, but I think he did last night. 15 saves in that first period. I mean, the Devils could have had 3 or 4. He kept them in it, and he's kind of done that time and time and again. And I think right now, I mean, we'll get to Keefe's comments on Samsonov and Samsonov's comments on himself. He's definitely the number 1 guy.
I
know Matt Murray's coming back. He looked good in his return, but I mean, he's not showing me any effects of him slowing down at all.
I think he's earned the right to be that guy at this point, although there's still 18, 19 games left. I still have a feeling, though, once it comes down to if he stays healthy, Matt Murray, with that playoff experience, might be Keefe's guy if he keeps playing okay at this point. And so far, they've both been okay overall. But last night, you're right, that first period, 15-2 shots. Samsonov kept his team in the game. He maybe could have done better in a couple of other goals there, but I still have a feeling that the battle's still to be won by either of these guys. A lot of hockey left, and Murray has proven one thing, that he can't stay healthy at this point. I would feel bad if Samsonov doesn't get the net in the playoffs to start with. But over recent years, we've seen teams needing more than one goaltender through a long playoff run, right?
Right.
Look at Pittsburgh. Look at Murray with Fleury, right?
Yeah.
It happens.
I mean, listen, if Matt Murray can return to peak Matt Murray like he did when he won the Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he's the number 1 guy. I just haven't seen any indication that that's the case. Here's Sheldon Keefe on Samsonov's performance.
I thought he was really good. There's a couple really tough shots early in the game that he came up big on. And then I thought, and certainly Jersey was carrying play through the first period there, but we were able to really tighten up defensively to the point that we were keeping it to the outside and perimeter shots and shots from distance at the top, all of that, and I thought he was solid there. But yeah, I liked his game. I'm still not quite sure how the third one ended up getting in there. I know that he wasn't expected to be tipped like that.
It was tipped like that. That's what happened. I mean, he probably should have still stopped it.
It was a great little one-headed tip.
It was very nice, yeah. I wonder, though, I mean, looking at the Leafs right now and the new arrivals, defensively, they do look better in many regards. Jake McCabe's arrived, and I think he looks great beside Brody, and that's helping, of course, his goaltenders. I thought McCabe's been one of the best Leaf players the last couple of games.
I think so too. He looked a little nervous. I think his first game was against Calgary, I believe, shaking off those jitters, but he's been pretty solid. I mean,
physical out there. Him and Brody work really well together. Now, who's going to work beside Riley? That's the big question mark.
Sharms, when's the last time the Leafs brought in guys through trades that have made an immediate positive impact like Lafferty, Ryan O'Reilly, Jake McCabe? It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
All these moves were the right moves.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
And they were glaring holes that need to be filled. I understand that, but you still got to get the right guys.
You do, and the Nick Foligno year was a year that they thought they got the right guy, but he came and he's basically hurt goods to start with. Tyson Nash never really worked out that year. Oh,
wow, yeah.
Right? And last year, I forget who they brought in now. Last year. It wasn't as busy. They kept the first rounder.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been impact for sure. And I think we're going to see that between now and the playoffs, where they're going to work out. It's more about the other holes really now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is Lily going to fit in there beside Riley or not? Because I think right now, McCabe and Brody, that's got to be a shutdown pair.
Yeah, I think so too. And not so much talk about Ryan O'Reilly, Morgan Riley, and Justin Hall last night, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. You want them to be quiet, which means they're usually solid.
Well, he's the offensive defenseman now.
Yeah.
That outlet pass is superb, right?
Oh, beautiful. Quick shout out to Sam Lafferty, who made a good appearance on that second line, was involved in a goal with Willie Nylander. Excuse me, I almost called Michael Nylander.
Again. That's twice in 2 shows.
I did it yesterday. I was going to do it today. Coming up next, we have Pat Mayo. We're going to talk about the Players' Championship this week in the PGA Tour. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. Now it's time to talk some golf. It's Players Championship Week down in Florida at TPC Sawgrass. And joining me now is a man that hopefully can make us some money, or at least help us make us some money, Pat Mayo of Mayo Media Network. Pat, thanks for doing this. I just want to talk about some of these elevated events right now. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, last week was fantastic at the Arnold Palmer. Kitayama getting it done on the 18th, beating out all the stars. So far, so good in terms of these tournaments this year. What have you made of it?
It's been fantastic to watch, and it's been so good with the exact results that you want. The PGA decided that they need to kind of blow it up a bit. I don't quite understand why, since we're getting the results that we want. But no, they're making changes coming next year.
Did you think that Kitayama winning last week at the Arnold Palmer was good leading into this Players? Just to kind of put it out there that anyone could win this thing, not just the stars?
Yeah, I do. And it's the perfect type of course for that to happen. So far in the elevated events, we had Riviera, which was fantastic. We had Phoenix, which was fantastic. But by and large, when you look at those tournaments year over year over year, it is usually one of the top dogs that ends up winning. When you get to Bay Hill and you see how weather can make an influence, there's so much water lingering around that course that we've seen long shot winners. We saw Matt Every go back-to-back at 300-1 and 200-1 in back-to-back seasons. And that's coming off Tiger winning at that course 8 times. So that tournament by itself, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and the course in Bay Hill is one that does allow itself for more long shot winners. And I think it was fantastic to see the big names that you would want at the top. Rory and Scheffler, especially the 2 and 3 player in the world, get beat by this guy who, listen, he's inside the top 50 of the world rankings. Kurt Kitayama is an excellent player, but he's not a name that people know when they're casually tuning in on a Sunday. They're thinking, who the hell is this guy?
Do you prefer tournaments that are lower scoring, or tournaments where, like Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer, where it's difficult for players to make birdies and pars?
I prefer the higher scoring ones.
Yeah.
So it's the reason that a hard Masters is really fun. So the reason why we all love the Open Championship and the US Open. Now, I understand that I probably wouldn't want to see the winning score be -8 or -9 or -6, whatever it may be, every single week. Sometimes I want to go out and see guys make shots, make birdies, make eagles. Sometimes that's a lot of fun. What you don't want to have is the same thing every single week. I think the sweet spot for scores like -13, because then you get a bit of both. But there's too many tournaments on the PGA Tour now that when you're coming down the stretch and someone's up by 2, well, there's almost literally no shot that they're going to give up 2 strokes anywhere. You love to see the courses where birdies are out there. We saw Kitty. The reason he won is he birdied 17, a hole no one was birdieing. In fact, they were mainly making bogeys on 17 the entire 4th round. and all of a sudden he sticks it close. He makes the big putt. That's a 2-shot swing. So when you have the ability to create drama and comebacks over the final 4-5 holes based on birdies and bogeys, and that's what we're going to see a lot this week at Sawgrass, only because of the water. I mean, the holes are generally pretty easy if you can hit easy shots, but one bad bounce and all of a sudden you're making double bogey and everyone is back into it. That sense of drama is what I want to see every single week.
Okay, so let's get into it. What do we need to know about the Players' Championship from a betting perspective?
Well, don't look at course history because there's no such thing at Sawgrass, because you have guys who win, then they shoot plus 13 the next year. Win splits are huge, and it does seem now like the afternoon on Friday is going to get a bit blustery. It wasn't looking that way all week. It was looking more like that would happen on Saturday morning, and now it's going to happen on Friday afternoon. It doesn't seem as extreme as what we saw last year. I don't think anything is going to seem as extreme as what we saw last year when Cameron Smith won, when an entire wave of players got completely wiped out. If you had any bets, any daily fantasy picks, anything from the bad wave, you just were going to lose all your money, because that's how it happened. You had to go with the alternate wave, which no one was really on, which was kind of crazy now that you think about it. But you can stack up the guys that have the afternoon wave on Thursday, meaning they're going to get the easier conditions on Friday morning, and take your chances that it blows up the entire afternoon wave. I don't think that's going to happen, but with so much volatility on this course, 17 holes with water in play, some guys that you think are locks are absolutely going to be horrible, and some guys that you think are horrible are just going to keep it dry all week, and they're just going to be there until the very end. So although we've seen top-end players win the past 3 years, in Rory, Justin Thomas, and Cameron Smith, I do think that the field at Sawgrass is a bit larger in terms of who can actually win than you would see at somewhere like Phoenix or Riviera. It's more in tune with Bay Hill, but that's really just Florida golf. Wind and water can screw up anyone's game. It's just one bad shot, and all of a sudden you're missing the cut.
When it comes to weather, the weather looks pretty good, but is there a metric that people can look at to measure which golfers do better in wind or better on courses with a lot more water than others?
Yes, I mean, you can go to fantasynational.com and find all of this information and sort it through. We have our filters of low wind, average wind, or windy wind, which is more than 17 miles per hour, and see how players fare in there. It's a flawed stat, unfortunately. And you can do it course specifically. So you can see conditions over 17 miles per hour at Sawgrass. That would actually be somewhat helpful. But sometimes you have 17 mile per hour wind. That's great. Oh, yeah, they were playing in windy conditions. Did they do poorly, or did they absolutely blow up? Well, the chances of blowing up at somewhere like Bay Hill and Sawgrass, when there is 25 mile per hour winds, are very high, because if you miss the fairway, you're into the water. Whereas if you played in the Puerto Rico Open last week and the winds were 30 miles per hour, that sucks. You're not going to be able to shape your shots exactly how you want to, but your ball is also not going to blow into the ocean because there's no water surrounding that course. So the worst is you're going to be in the rough, and then you have to figure out how to play from there. Now, you can weight everything relative to the field that you're in. That's somewhat helpful. But sometimes when you look at metrics for courses that have a lot of water, they're inherently difficult to trust, because one bad shot can throw off your entire week's worth of stats. So trying to take the median rather than just looking at the overall average is usually a better facet to take when you're doing your research, if you're going to look at things analytically.
One thing I look at, I'm not a fantastic golf bettor. I'm pretty new to it, to be completely honest with you. But one thing I always look at is past winners, especially at big tournaments like this one. But for this, guys don't really win multiple times here unless you're Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods. Cam Smith won last year, but he's not going to play. He's a live golfer, so no repeat of that. How much should people be looking into past winners at the Players?
You don't really. It goes back to that course history. You have to remember this switch from May to March in 2019. So since they've had the switch, you had Rory, Thomas, and Cam Smith. Now, a 3-year sample is essentially nothing in terms of sample size, but it has gone towards the higher end player, whereas before you had your 80 to 1s, 100 to 1s winning. You had Webb Simpson and Siwoo Kim win back-to-back years. Stephen Ames had won. Matt Kuchar had won the Players' Championship. Tim Clark was an absolute bomb who ended up winning. And then you had your Ricky Fowler years where he wasn't the betting favorite, but he was one of the favorites. But it does seem like it's been a little bit geared towards more of the higher end players, and especially guys with great short games. Just look at those 3 guys. They're not the most accurate drivers in the world. In fact, you would say that they're some of the least accurate players off the tee, yet somehow they managed to keep it out of the water. Great iron players, great scramblers. And Cam Smith is an excellent putter, but Rory's not an excellent putter. Justin Thomas isn't an excellent putter. They can have excellent putting weeks, but by and large, they lose strokes on the green more often than they gain. So short game and irons and hitting fairways are really the three key components that you want at Sawgrass.
Let's talk players. John Rahm. I mean, before last week at the API, he was on fire. Already 3 wins this season or this year, 6 top 10s. He's kind of been lights out, but at the Arnold Palmer wasn't great for 3 rounds. He's one guy that I'm really looking at. Should I be concerned about betting him based on that performance?
I mean, you should be concerned about betting him because he's 10-1 in a field of 144 players.
This is why you're here, Pat.
It's all the top guys. Like it's funny because I know like you crush soccer betting, and soccer betting is so much different than golf betting. Golf betting is so much different than almost anything else because the favorites have been coming through because Rahm keeps winning every single tournament, or at least every second tournament. But most weeks he's like 6-1. So when you think about that on a probability basis, do those odds match his actual probability to win? It's like, no, they're not even close. Even if you gave him a 10% win rate or a 15% win rate, which is absurdly high when you have all of them, I guess not all of the best because some of the guys are on LIV, but all of the best players currently on the PGA Tour. Well, if we go by the odds and we're like, okay, well, Rahm is 8-1, Rory is 8-1, and Scheffler is 10-1. Well, you have 10%, 12.5%, and 12.5% locked up in 3 guys. There's only so much win equity to go around in this tournament. And if you're going to allocate over 30% of it to 3 guys, what the hell are the other 141 going to do? Fight it out for the 70%? That's just not how math works. So sometimes you need to be able to pick and choose what are better values versus who you really think is going to win. Like if you had to ask me, one player, no odds, who's going to win, I'm going to say John Rahm, obviously. So I think that he is the better choice between Rory and Scheffler at the very top of the board. I still don't like his odds, though.
Okay, quickly, who do you like this week? Who's on your board?
Max Homa, depending on where you can get the number, it's been beat down a little bit, but you can get him as high as 25-1.
I see him 16-1 at the moment here on FanDuel.
God. Oh, well, I don't even know if that's a real site, so I wouldn't even go there. I'd go somewhere else. DraftKings Sportsbook is the place where you want to go. 24-1 right now up there. Tom Kim, Colin Morikawa. Now we're looking at 30-1 and 50-1. See, Kim up at 60-1. If you want a bomb, hopefully a lottery ticket to go to. I think Webb Simpson's number has been beat down throughout the course of the week. It opened at 250-1. I think it's 140-1 at the moment. I still don't hate that. And then Justin Suh and Ben Griffin, 2 guys, 250-1 and beyond that you can look at. They're probably better top 10 plays, but hey, we're trying to win some big money here.
Yeah, I love a big bomb. I'm definitely betting Ben Griffin. I see him at plus 28 or plus almost that's big odds. Jesus, on Ben Griffin. Definitely betting on that. Okay, Pat Mayo, thank you so much for joining us. You can check out his work at Mayo Media Network. We'll talk again soon. All right, that was Pat Mayo of the Mayo Media Network. We'll definitely have him on in the coming weeks for all the golf tournaments, including the major ones, Augusta and the Masters coming up in April. We'll likely see Tiger Woods there, some LIV golf guys as well. How about Mickelson and Tiger Woods in a pairing? That's something I love to see. All right, coming up next, we'll break down the Toronto Raptors and the Clippers tonight with Justin Pooni. Welcome back to the show. Albert Vartanian and James Sharman now joining us. Justin Pooni to talk some basketball.
Yes, sir.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm really digging the new set, guys. I like. I feel
now you got to go side to side.
The desk also does cover the gut. So
you
now
know what? I'm a big fan of that.
I'm a big fan of it because now you can eat whatever you want and nobody will ever know.
And I know I'm not wearing pants.
Exactly.
You got to be careful, right? Get to the gills.
The neck area.
You don't want to just have straight down.
Just
you need separation.
Just do some shoulder shrugs in the gym. That's really about it, and then you're good to go. Right?
I'm gonna start wearing tighter shirts.
Yeah, I am actually. I'm trying to. It's summer's coming up. I'm trying to get a little bit slender.
The Sharm's is going on vacation next week, so
I heard
in the gym hard.
Yeah, the sun's gonna be out, and those guns are gonna be out.
Oh yeah, sun's out, guns.
Where are you going, James?
Jamaica.
So they make sure the Jamaicans bought the tickets to the gun show then.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Very nice.
I'll be wearing long sleeve shirts all week.
Yeah, the only guy with a shirt on in the pool.
I burn. I'm English. I burn really bad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What's your SPF at? 50, 60?
What should I be wearing?
Yeah.
Isn't it SPF?
No,
I have no idea.
it's got to be like
I'll
50
burn
plus.
regardless.
Yeah.
Even through the long sleeves.
This is great conversation.
Great.
This is riveting
This is
stuff.
sports talk.
This is sports. Sports.
-4.
Okay. Raptors, Clippers. The Raptors coming off a tough loss. Some will say a controversial loss, thanks to Scott Earl Hebner Foster,
Yes.
WWE style refereeing in that game. The big question here, it's going to be a difficult game against the Clippers.
Mhm.
Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Norman Powell, a very good team. They're slipping at the moment, but they're still a really good team.
Yeah.
It's always hard to go to the West Coast and play a Los Angeles team. But what do you think the reaction will be after a difficult loss like that?
Well, honestly speaking, I was very impressed with what the Toronto Raptors did on Monday night in Denver.
Monday night,
They
yeah.
took the best team in the NBA, led them in every quarter going into the fourth quarter. Again, the fourth quarter issues reared its ugly head, and an official who wanted to be the main star of the game, wanted to take over the game, did, and it cost the Raptors.
But Justin, it wasn't just that, right? Like
No,
Denver
you
still shot 50%
Exactly.
from the
You
field.
can't give up 35 points in a fourth quarter and expect to win. You can't. Especially a team like the Raptors who aren't got plethora of talent like other teams that can manage that.
Mhm.
The Raptors need to show up in the fourth quarter. They didn't. So that's the main reason they lost. But there was a lot of positives to take from that game. Now looking to tonight, Kawhi Leonard's 5-0 against the Toronto Raptors.
Mhm.
So it's going to be a tall task to knock down a guy who has a great illustrious history with the Toronto Raptors. But I'm really interested to see how they come out of the gates. After that tough finish in Denver, can they bounce back and be a resilient bunch and get up to a hot start like they had in Denver? Because they're going to need to.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the same time, they can't be whining anymore, right? I mean, they made their noise and their feelings felt post game Monday. And fair enough, right? We've been through that before. But they have got a propensity to kind of complain a fair amount, right?
Mhm.
Nick Nurse is great in press conferences, right? But he can be a little bit on that whiny scale, right?
Of course, yeah.
They've got to respond and just do it on the court, right?
Absolutely. You can't dwell on the last game. You can't dwell on it whatsoever. The Raptors are in no position to look back. You have to look ahead because they're in a dogfight right now just to make the play-in,
Mhm.
right? And the Clippers are in the same boat as the Toronto Raptors. That Western Conference is extremely tight from seeds 3 to, you can basically say, till 11 to the Lakers, right? And the Clippers are in that group, and they're going to need to play a game. This game is going to be just like the previous games, close, tight, and it's going to come down to which team executes the best in crunch time. The Clippers have guys that have been there in crunch time. The Raptors have shown this year they don't play well in crunch time. So I'm interested. That's the biggest key to this game for me is how do these teams perform in the fourth quarter if the game is tight?
So the Clippers are 1-5 since getting Russell Westbrook.
Yes.
What's the problem?
I know it's easy to point the finger at Russell Westbrook because they did it with the Lakers, they did it with the Wizards, they did it with the Rockets.
He's become like the ultimate scapegoat in the NBA.
And it's unfair. It's extremely unfair for a guy like Russell Westbrook, who is a Hall of Fame player, a top 75 player. I'm going to kind of relate to soccer. You kind of think of Harry Maguire, right? Now, Harry Maguire is the biggest scapegoat.
Are we really comparing?
No,
Harry
I'm not.
Maguire to Russell
I'm just
Westbrook?
no.
But
Russell Westbrook.
McGuire's quiet though. He's not.
He's
He's
quiet.
not vocal. and
But
he's
the
not
thing with
causing
Westbrook-
issues in the room.
Yeah, well, the thing with Westbrook is everybody says he's a great teammate, right? Everybody says
True.
he's a great teammate. But it's the front offices that have resistance, the coaching staff that have resistance against him, and I feel like it's really hindered his legacy in the NBA. It's not Russell Westbrook. It's 6 games. He's coming to a new team, a new organization, a new system. You can't expect somebody to just jump in right away but because it's Russell Westbrook, the microscope is so heavy on him that when they're losing, the finger's gonna be pointed right at him. But the Clippers also live by the 3, die by the 3. And if they're not hitting their 3-point shots, they're gonna have a difficulty winning games, right?
Yeah. Let's continue with the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, 12-2 when facing the Raptors all time, 5-0 since joining the Clippers. The Clippers have a dual threat in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are both expected to play this game tonight against the Raptors. But the Raptors have a defensive juggernaut on their side in OG Anunoby, who's been really good the past few games, so much so that Nick Nurse had this to say about his defensive performances as of late.
Listen, it's really impressive. I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, the guys guarded like DeRozan, Beal, now Jokic, in 4 games, and he's done a great job on all of them. From a 7-foot plus guy to one of the shiftiest guards in the league in Beal. He's really a great defender, really great defender.
I mean, OG's done a lot. If we have this graphic here, against the Bulls, he limited DeRozan to 13 points, Beal to 15 twice, and then the Nuggets, 17 points. He limited Jokic, who still managed to
Near triple-double.
influence that game. But OG, clearly, I mean, based not just on this, but over the past few seasons, is becoming one of the elite defenders in the league.
It's surprising he's never had all defense selection.
Right.
And I think that's why he was in talks for the defensive player of the year at the beginning of the year before he kind of got hurt. Look, he's been a stout defensive defensively. He's been great defensively. And the Raptors need to have a guy take on Nikola Jokic, who he's giving up, not only height but weight to, and make his life very difficult. Now, Jokic only took like 8 shots in the game, which again, maybe that was OG's defense, or maybe that was just being passive by Nikola Jokic. But for what he's done against Bradley Beal, DeMar DeRozan, those guys can put the ball in the basket with the best of them in the NBA, and to hold them to under 20 points consistently, that's something the Raptors really need to take advantage of, and that's going to be his thing. Can he hold either Kawhi Leonard or Paul George to have an off night, because they're going to be missing Norman Powell off the bench, so they're going to be missing some offensive firepower, but they still got a guy like Bones Highland, coming off the bench. So I'm interested to see how OG plays against these Clippers superstars, and can he keep him in check.
And then Friday Lakers, Anthony Davis, right? That doesn't get any easier
Yeah.
for him. But when I look at OG, I mean, we know what he does defensively, and that's the role he's been put into, defense first. But is there more to his game than that at some point? There's rumors about, well, not more than rumors. There'll be a big name leaving the Raptors this summer, probably. At least one big name.
Yeah.
And his name was mentioned at the deadline. Didn't happen in the end. Is there still a chance he gets lured somewhere else? You can offer him more offensive minutes?
And I've said this on Hoop Talks a bunch, I think the Raptors should choose Gary Trent Jr. over OG Anunoby, because I think what Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. can do, they bring more offensive consistency than OG Anunoby. And we know he's a great defensive player, an elite defensive player, but the game of basketball is also to put the ball in the hoop, right? And I think with the price checking the Raptors did at the deadline, what his market value is. I would not be surprised if he's the one, the odd man out. Because I think what Fred and Gary Trent Jr. bring on the offensive side of the ball and shooting-wise, because OG's a very inconsistent shooter, and sometimes I like to think sometimes he turns into a guy like Jason Tatum. He tries to go heavy off the dribble and stuff like that, but that's not predicated toward his game and success. He's more of a 3-and-D type of guy. But sometimes I feel like he wants that larger role. So he might have to move elsewhere to get that. And I believe if I was running the team Masai Ujiri, I would feel free to move off him and keep Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah, I mean, defense is not an issue for OG. Leads the league in steals, 1.9 per game. In isolation scenarios, he's limiting opponents to just 31% from the field. Pretty good. So who gets the OG treatment tonight? Is it Leonard or Paul George? The last time they played, it was Kawhi Leonard.
I think it's Kawhi just because of the hot streak OG's on defensively. I think Nick Nurse wants to see, okay, you know what? You've proved me well the last couple games. All right, go take Kawhi now. Right. And it works like the Raptors' advantage because they know Kawhi's game better than anybody else on the floor. So I'm interested to see that matchup. That's going to be a very interesting matchup because people said that OG could morph into a Kawhi-like player once he left. It obviously hasn't happened. That's right. But on the defensive side, he's not Kawhi Leonard in his prime, but he's an elite defender. So
you mentioned Gary Trent there. It's interesting because since Pirtle's come along, he's playing less minutes, but he's still without doubt one of the top 6 players on the Raptors, and maybe top next year starter. Right, once again, I feel somewhat bad for the guy, don't you? Because he hasn't done much wrong. He's still one of the best shooters on the team, but not getting. He gets some starter minutes.
I think it's just like there's so many bodies and so many guys that want to start that they needed to put him off the bench. And when I said I think Gary Trent should start and OG should come off the bench because OG can get that enhanced role offensively that he wanted. But when I look at Gary Trent, that's what I'm kind of worried about. Was there something in the back channels before the deadline that Masai kind of said, "Hey, look, we want you part of this team going forward for the foreseeable future. And one of these players is going to be moved out, and don't worry, you will be a starter." I wonder if that was said to Gary Trent Jr. Because,
and he knows that he could start on a lot of teams.
A lot of teams, right? Like I, for once, thought he would go to the Lakers, right? Because they need shooting. They need a guy to come off on the shooting guard position. I thought he was going to go to the Lakers because also he's a clutch client, connection to LeBron James there. But it must be something that Masai and Nick Nurse told him, like, "Hey, look, like, be patient, and we'll make sure you flourish in a role." So,
Jakob Poeltl. He's been an incredible trade that was done by Masai Ujiri to bring him in. In the 10 games, 15 points, 9 boards, a steal, and a block per game. 6-4 record the Toronto Raptors have when he's in the lineup. I mean, you're gonna have to make this one up, but if Jakob Poeltl started the season with the Toronto Raptors and they stayed obviously relatively healthy, where would they be in the standings?
They'd be in a much better position, that's for sure.
Outside the play-in?
I think they'd still be hovering around the 6, 7, 8 seed. So they'd be maybe a couple games better than they are right now. But it just shows you that maybe traditional offenses in the NBA still work. Everybody wants to talk about stretching the floor, spacing, and all of that stuff. But when you have a traditional center, sometimes the offense just flows better. You look at the pick and rolls between Fred VanVleet and Jakob Poeltl. that's causing defenses a whole lot of problems right now. And you're just seeing not only the defensive impact, but the offensive impact too. So, yes, I do believe the Raptors would be a better team had Pirtle been there from the start. I don't think it would be that big of a difference, but there definitely would be a little bit more of a cushion with the play-in bar or potentially the playoff bar as well.
What's his deal looking like for next year?
Oh.
Resigns or wherever he goes. What are we talking here?
He's making himself a whole lot of money right now.
I mean, at
way
the
he's
moment,
playing.
based on the way he's playing, he gets him to the playoffs.
He's gonna get 20, 25 plus maybe, right?
Now, can that come from Toronto? Do you
It
think?
has to come from Toronto. They gave that first round
Yeah.
pick. You kind of have to pay him now,
Big
right?
gamble though, isn't it?
It's a gamble, but I think Pirtle, because he's been in the Raptors system, he's that international player, right? So the Raptors really like to focus on the international players. I think he gets a deal done in Toronto, and I think the Raptors wouldn't have made this deal without knowing that they can bring
Or at least some
Jakob-
interest, at least, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
They know
yeah.
that Jakob Pirtle will. Be
I love his game and I love his demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
There's no flash
No.
at all.
And
Very serious.
Steely-eyed assassin.
Knows his role.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare him to Jokic, but Jokic that's Jokic's
Well,
demeanor.
Jokic was like appreciating him
Yeah.
on Monday, saying, "Man, you
He-
played well."
I thought it was a horrible deal to get Jakob Pirtle, but it's proving me wrong because look, he's going out there and playing some very good basketball for the Toronto Raptors, and for himself making a whole lot of money, which you can't complain at all for him.
Yeah. Who would have thought? You bring
Who
in the
would've thought?
center and it fixes everything.
Yeah.
The Raptors 2.5-point dogs currently at the Los Angeles Clippers. If you look at the Raptors record against teams above 500, 16-14, not bad compared to 16-20 against teams below 500. You would think that in a scenario like this, it lines up perfectly for them to win. I know that's crazy to say, but they're a resilient team under Nick Nurse.
They are, and look, a lot of people are saying, a lot of people out there saying the Raptors should be smart money today as 2.5-point dogs in LA. I can see that ideology. I can see
I'd
it.
like a few more points. I'm not gonna.
I would like a few more points too. I just don't think they played such a good game on Monday night in Denver, and they still lost.
Mhm.
And I think that bar was so. Can they replicate that performance now? If they play the same game and Pascal Siakam shows up a little more in Scotty Barnes, then for sure. But I feel like you're gonna see something. And the Clippers had such a big win against the Grizzlies to end that losing streak, and then once they start playing with confidence and shooting the ball with confidence, it might get a little bit dicey.
Yes, Justin Pooni, thank you so much. Raptors at the Clippers tonight in Los Angeles. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. We've reached the end of the show. James Sharman, Justin Pooni staying with us for the end of the show. Producer Sean, can you come on the screen, please? We were just talking about drinks that we've had on vacation. Sharm's going on vacation soon.
Yeah.
And he said his drink of choice will be a beer, which is, you have
A
some
little bit
beers
boring. I understand
No,
that.
it's fine.
but,
Cold
It's
beer
the safe play though.
in the hot sun.
Yeah.
And then producer Sean chimes in. He
Speaking
goes,
of
"Yeah,
hot
when I was
sun,
in-
it looks like I'm baking over
You
here.
look like you're in Mexico right now." He goes, "When I was in Mexico, I dry everything. I even got a chocolate mudslide."
But what about his drinks?
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm just trying to figure out how you're still alive after drinking a chocolate mudslide in Mexico.
well, no, I mean, I personally, when it's free, you just drink whatever you want.
I know, but of all the things, can you take us
yeah,
through?
little Bailey's, a little
Can you take
Kahlua.
us through the conversation you had with the
So-
bartender?
When it's like 35 degrees out, you want something icy. So I was going daiquiris, pina coladas, I was mudslide. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
man.
that's a big no-no for
Nah.
me.
But if you go to these hedonism resorts
That
like
hurts my
Sean, you need to keep drinking also.
Yeah,
don't you?
You need all
That's
kinds
the
of things.
issue.
Would you order something like that on vacation?
No, absolutely not.
All inclusive in like a
Look,
South American country.
like
or-
producer Sean, I love my sweets and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna go to a pool bar, swim up, and ask for chocolate.
That's a
mudslide.
slippery
No,
slope.
That
it
sounds
is.
like-
Yeah, in
that
more ways than
sound-
one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
No,
That sounds like
yeah.
a messy situation in a bunch of ways.
It's a 50-50 shot. You're spending
Yeah.
your night in the bathroom.
Keep it simple. A nice watered down beer in the resort. You
Oh,
get through
it's
like
nice.
18 of them. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
not even drunk yet. Why is
Yeah.
that?
But
'Cause
the
they're
problem
watered
is
down.
that on the resorts, they give you the little plastic
Oh yeah,
cups.
but for the first time, I'm not going to be that guy. Like I'm not a resort guy, but I'm going to bring my own cup this time around.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Like the Bubba keg? or
Not a
whatever?
Bubba. I'm not
No.
going that far.
Sean's the
But
Bubba guy.
yeah, for sure.
All right, producer Sean, you got some
Yeah,
some-
sorry. Let me just pop up below
some
you
bets
here.
for us?
Yeah, no. Hey, so firstly, I just wanted to talk to Sharms. Last year's trade deadline, Giordano and Colin Blackwell.
Of course, Giordano and Blackwell. Yeah,
Yeah,
Blackwell
yeah.
played well in the fourth line, I thought actually. But
Yeah, and hey,
Giordano, hey, great deal.
yeah. So that's who they got last year. And then my bet of the night, I'm gonna go a bit. I'm picking a road dog.
Oof.
Jeez.
I'm gonna go Minnesota Wild over the Winnipeg Jets. The Wild are 8-0-2 in their last 10 games. Jets are like 2-6-2. Jets have a better home record than their away record, so they do play well at home. But I'm going to ride the hot hand with the Wild tonight against the Jets.
I'm liking the Wild a lot. I took them under 6 goals last night, but there were 2 winners on my 3-game parlay, but the Carolina Hurricanes killed me on the puck line.
Because Sean took the Wild, I'm going to take the Jets.
Oh, yeah. So, by the way, that was Sean's worst bet of the night. Tail at your own peril. That's it for the show. Sharman, Justin, Sean, thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow.